Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I think, honestly, this is one of the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies ever made.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, which released in 1997 from writer-director Kim Henkel. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a very young Renée Zellweger playing Jenny. She's just left her high school prom with a couple of friends and they've taken the wrong turn down a dirt road. They come across Vilmer, played by Matthew McConaughey, who forces them to his house, where Leatherface resides, and a whole night of nightmares unfolds.
All right. Let's get yourself on. Welcome to my world.
So, this Texas Chainsaw Massacre film actually initially released in 1995.
Wow, okay.
And it was under the title The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it premiered at a film festival.
Okay.
And it flopped.
Yeah.
And then that was pretty much the end of this very low-budget independent film. But it was then picked up by a studio to release on DVD and VHS and home video.
Yeah.
But at that point, the film's two stars had kind of grown in fame, and their agents apparently tried to stop the studio from now relaunching the film with their faces and names front and center to try to cash in on the fact that these unknowns have now become pretty big stars.
Yeah.
So apparently there was some legal disputes going on in the background, although Matthew McConaughey and Renée Zellweger have both actually defended the film as being not necessarily highlights in their career.
Oh, yeah,
but
totally.
in terms of the experience they gained from being on this film.
Yeah.
Anyway, the film then did release under the Next Generation in 97, and it also bombed then as well.
Totally, yeah.
And I'm just like, you know what? This film was made before Scream and released after Scream. I'm like, and Scream was the one that kind of like freshened up and changed the horror genre in a different meta direction, and then out comes this old-fashioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that didn't really know what it wanted to be because it was being experimental and bizarre and trying to change the formula up and trying to say something about current-day horror films. And and then has been now labelled probably as the worst one in the franchise.
It's been an abomination. You really must accept my sincere apologies.
Yeah. It's a close call for me between this and number 2. Which one is actually the worst? But, like, at least number 2 at the time I felt had Dennis Hopper in and was funny, which isn't what I wanted from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, but, you get what you get, right? And The Next Generation, I remember seeing the poster in the video store and seeing the kind of girlish figure on the front with the leg and the saw, and I liked the idea that there was going to be a new female Leatherface. Maybe there would be this girl who had disfigurement and she was chasing after a bunch of teens. Or, maybe Leatherface was really a girl inside and he was cutting up the girl so that he could grow, his own suit. I at this point, I'd seen Silence of the Lambs, so I knew it was possible that there could be another Buffalo Bill out there. And then I watched this movie and I was like, what the fuck is that shit? Like, at the time I watched it, I think I watched it like early 2000, maybe 2002. I got hold of a DVD of it and I watched it and I was like, nope, that's really bad. And so this time for the review, this is the second time I've watched this film in like 30 years, and I promise you I am never fucking going back.
No. Well, I mean, at this point it's just like, so Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, sequel to the first one.
Yeah.
Number 3, just a sequel to the first one.
Yeah.
Number...
With kind of hints.
Yeah.
They were teasing that certain things had happened
and
over
now,
time.
At the beginning of this one, there's the text again. It's not crawling this
Yeah,
time.
no, it's not crawling.
Text, and it says that there were these maybe related incidents.
Yes.
But minor incidents, so not the real thing. And it's like, is this film just being like, yeah, those other sequels don't really matter. This is the sequel to the first film now. For reals.
For reals. All that other stuff that you saw that was kind of a dream, maybe it was just people's psychotic nightmares.
But this film does nothing to get you excited for what's to come, especially when we get introduced to this plethora of very unlikable characters at this prom dance.
Well, I mean, we start with Renée putting on the lipstick.
Oh yeah, we
don't
got a preparation montage for the dance.
Yeah, and this is also kind of a setup for her backstory of her character, which isn't set up very well. But we find out later on that, you know, Jenny lives at home with her mum, who gets married every 15 minutes, and her husbands are always beating on her and stuff. So Jenny supposedly is raised in a terrible, upbringing.
Now, apparently, between the original release and then the studio's re-release of home video, they cut out all of her backstory.
Oh, totally,
which was that she was being assaulted regularly by her stepfather.
Right, yeah.
And that is why she's very mousy, very timid, and hasn't got any fight in her.
Yeah.
And that is something that would have been a character arc for her throughout the film, which is now not really there. It would also explain why she's also not very intimidated by some of the horrible things going on around her, because she's like, yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah. And it really doesn't work. You know, like Gary said, we get to the prom and we've got these 30-year-old kids, you know, running around, and you've got Heather who's looking for her boyfriend Barry, and he's cheating on her, so she steals his car, and then they're really angry at each other, but she kind of still loves it. I fucking hated the Heather character, and I hated the Barry character more.
Yeah.
That's how much I hated both of these characters.
Now, writer-director Kim Henkel did this on purpose.
Right, okay.
He wanted to kind of do cartoonish caricatures of modern American teens.
Right,
and then just kind of ham it up. So he also wanted this to kind of be a commentary on horror, or the horror genre at this point in time as well.
Yeah.
About how you just have these unlikable teens and you just want them killed off very quickly.
Yeah, that's been going on for like 30 years, dude. We didn't care about the guys in the first fucking movie.
Well, I did.
Which one?
Sally.
Right, okay, so one.
Well, yeah, and her brother Franklin. I mean, he might have been an idiot, and you know.
Do you remember when he was blowing raspberries in the house?
Yeah. I mean, he was abandoned by his friends. I mean, they were dead, but he was abandoned.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We've come off the first one, and we're not liking those characters. So why would you make jokes about not liking the characters in this one? We don't care. We want Leatherface. It's what we came to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie for. Not caricatures. You know, we don't care that Jenny has a horrible upbringing. Her house could have been set on fire after she left. I don't care. I want her to get to the house and be attacked by a guy with a chainsaw. But no.
Well, she commits a horror movie sin. She's smoking marijuana in the back seat of the car.
Well,
potentially,
it's suggested, but Sean is more the stoner, and it's suggested that she just hangs out with Sean because he kind of fancies her, but she feels safe around him. It doesn't matter because his character lasts about 5 fucking seconds.
Yeah, he's just a non-event in the film.
Exactly.
Really.
Barry and his whole fucking line of dialogue absolutely destroys everybody in this car.
Right.
He puts them all down, and you hate Barry so much that after a while you actually like him because he's the only thing going on.
This is true, yeah.
What if we got into a wreck and we crashed into a car in front of us and we all died? They could write a song about it.
Shut up.
And so they end up like driving off. I don't know where they've come from the prom. I don't know where they're driving to.
Yeah.
Or why they've taken these back roads through the forest.
Because Heather was driving. Oh, that's right. They were driving really fast, and she clipped the car, which I think sent them onto some little road. And they're continuing driving. They crash, don't they?
Well, they complain that there's nowhere to turn around in this car, and then as they're driving, another car just smashes right into them.
Yeah, out of nowhere. And it's at this point that Jenny's just like, look, I'm going to go get help. So I need some people to come with me, and somebody needs to stay with the other driver because he's unconscious. He's a no-name character that you will not care about. And it's Barry, Heather, and Jenny. They wander off, and they come across this random fucking hut.
Yeah.
with this woman in who I only realised her name was Darla when I looked her up. I don't actually believe they say her name once in the film.
Yeah, I don't recall either. Yeah.
So I just assumed she's Darla from the wiki that I was looking for the cast list. And she calls up some person randomly and gets hold of Vilma and tells them the location of these cars that are crashed. And you know, you've just had to sit through all the dialogue of Heather talking about what if there's a random killer hiding out in the woods who wants to eat us and attack us and jump out of the trees, and she fucking just goes on.
Well, we do get a brief glimpse of nudity here as Darla flashes out the window to some passers-by, throw a brick for her window.
Yeah, like, what was that? Is that the... Oh, we need some tits in this movie to keep people's interest going.
Well, it worked for a moment.
For a moment. For a moment.
Like I'm even interested. See him in the week.
We're cutting back to Sean with the car wrecks, and Vilma turns up, played by Matthew McConaughey. Now, say what you want about Matthew McConaughey's career. Like, it has had its ups and downs. It's been all over the place. But I can put my hand on my heart and say whenever I watch something with him in, he's very, very good.
Yeah. And
You
to
know?
think that he was still kind of like at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
When he turned up to the audition for this, he turned up for a bit part. And then as he was leaving, he had already recommended like some of his other actor friends for the other jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as he was about to get in his car, he was like, no, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm going to go back in there and audition for the lead villain.
Yeah.
And he did. And well, within moments, you know, Kim Henkel was like, the role is yours.
You're-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
And you can see it with this because, like, he's intimidating, he's scary, but it's really badly filmed and edited where he kills the guy on the floor when Sean's like, oh, the guy's still alive, and
Just breaks his
Bill
neck.
was like, snap, no he's not. And then he gets in the car to chase Sean down. So then we cut back to Jenny and all that because they're like, oh, we've got to get back to Sean and, you know, make sure that he's okay. And then we cut back to Sean and Vilma's chasing him down in the truck. And, like, they park alongside each other, don't they? And he's just like, why are you doing this to me, man? Don't hurt me, man. And then Vilma reverses his truck
Over him
over
several
him, like,
times.
several times.
It's like, Sean, you're in a forest. Like, why are you on the road? Just get into the trees.
Just run the other direction.
No, I mean, I guess he was high. He had no fight in him.
Yeah.
Which under the wheels he went.
I think it's funny later on, like, Vilma does this back and forth thing, and then we'll see his body hanging in the back later, and it's all okay.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. But while Jenny, Barry, and Heather are walking down the road, they wanted to get a lift from the gas station that was across the road from Darla, but she's like, no, he's a crazy old man, don't go there. And then I think you see the same truck drive past them, and so Barry and Heather decide to chase after the truck for no reason into the darkness, leaving Jenny completely on her own.
Yeah. Now, I've hated everything about this film up until this point.
Right.
I want to say there is some nice, genuine horror atmosphere here.
Yeah.
For the brief moments, the forest is well lit. Jenny sort of in the white prom dress on her own with a flashlight that's failing. And I'm like, this is all very, very typical.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm digging it. I'm like, maybe I can ease into the film now. Maybe it's actually going to start. And then we do get a Leatherface chase sequence through the forest.
Well, this is after he's dealt with Barry and Heather at the house, hasn't he?
Okay, yeah.
Which, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from the chase sequence. After the stuff at the house, I felt the same. Like, oh, is this film getting good?
Right.
You know?
Because when Barry and Heather get there, Barry goes round the back,
Yeah.
and Heather sits on the porch swing,
Yeah.
and has her hair sniffed and played with by Leatherface hiding behind her.
That's it. Leatherface sneaks up and he's all being coy, like he doesn't know what to do, but she shouldn't be there kind of thing. And it reminds me a lot of the first movie. Just this horrible presence. It's not obviously Kane Hodder or freaking, Gunnar Hansen and it's some guy called Robert Jacks playing Leatherface, which obviously we don't really know because he's wearing this mask constantly. But Barry gets stopped by W.E. Sawyer, who was the name that we'd kind of seen in the second or third one, didn't we?
Right.
Where it was one of the family members that had been executed. So I was like, oh, that's a cool callback. And he has Barry at gunpoint. So then Barry's there, scared to move because he's going to get shot. And then he hears Heather scream because she starts getting grabbed by Leatherface. And I gotta admit, the whole chase sequence through the house I thought was pretty cool because it made me think of the first movie.
Sure.
It's filmed very rough. The editing is very thrown together, and it's literally just this girl screaming her head off being chased by this guy through the house. She then gets stuffed into the fridge, and gets a big metal thing thrown on top so she can't get out. And Barry's still acting like, oh, she stopped screaming now. That seems to be okay. And he manages to escape from WE and gets into the house, takes a piss.
Yeah, he did say earlier that he really needed to go.
Really needed a piss. And
so he just ignores all of the skin decorations.
so he's just stood there peeing and he's talking to Heather like she's outside the room, like she can hear him.
It's only when he sees the corpse in the bathtub that he's like, okay, this is not right.
Yeah. And he steps outside. Leatherface surprises him, smashes him in the face with a hammer, drags him into where Heather is, and then Heather tries to escape again, and he hooks her up on the hook, much like the first movie. And so that whole sequence, I was like, wow, that should have been the whole fucking movie.
Yeah, but then again, I'm still like, this is still just like nowhere near as impactful as it was in the original film.
Oh.
You've just redone it, but ineffectively, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, at least you kept the pace going. And like I said, coming back to Jenny, she's in the forest. Leatherface turns up to chase her. Well, doesn't it also, she gets picked up by Vilmer, I think, as well.
That's right, yeah.
She gets picked up by Vilmer, and this is also where I thought, wow, you can see why Renée Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey actually went off and got better careers.
Yeah, because when it's just the two of them on film together, I was like,
Yeah.
you feel their star power even before they had it. Like,
He's intimidating and scary, like he's got this dark patch in him that he's just holding back and ready to unleash.
and he starts questioning her about whether she's scared yet.
Yeah.
And he's like, you want to be really scared? Look in the back of the truck. And she's refusing to, so he has to force her head up against the glass, and that's when she sees the corpses of the stranger and her friend.
Yeah, and this is also where I started to realise that, like, Renée can act as well, because she's properly trying to fight against him, and Matthew McConaughey, with his acting ability, is actually fighting against her. So it probably looks rough.
Oh, God.
Yeah, of course you gotta throw in a little something extra. Just let them know it ain't Saturday morning cartoons, if you know what I mean.
But she manages to jump out of the car, and he kind of laughs at her and says, like, you want to be scared? You know, the horror's not even started yet, and he drives off.
And that's when Leatherface turns up in the woods. That's right.
And luckily, coincidentally, he chases her all the way to the house.
Yeah.
And then we have this chase sequence through the house where she's chased upstairs. She finds like this corpse of this police officer stood there.
That's right, yeah.
And you see the gun, and so she picks up the gun, but she doesn't check it for bullets. And so then when she goes to use it on Leatherface, it's out of ammo. Leatherface chases her all the way up to the roof. She jumps out, or stunt woman, jumps out of the attic window. And then she's making her way all the way up the top of the roof. And then she falls off after trying to climb along this kind of piece of wire. And I was watching this whole sequence like, yeah, you're making the escape sequence from the first one again, but you're having to go even further. So after she falls off the roof and manages to escape from the house again, she makes her way back and finds herself back at Darla's, which I was just like, okay, we now know Darla is evil. And Jenny's also come across Heather as well in the middle of the road. And I'm like, wow, Heather's pulled herself off the hook.
Yeah.
And then crawled her way back into the road to escape. And so Darla... we know as the audience that Darla's involved in this. She ends up calling WE to come and help, and they get this bag on Jenny and throw her in the back of the car.
Yeah.
And Darla's just like, well, I'm going to go get pizza now. Tell Vilmer I'll be home in a minute. You need to go get Heather. She's down the road.
Wait a minute. Are these guys no longer cannibals?
I don't know, mate.
They eat pizza now.
Yeah, they even stopped. Like, this bit really threw me a curveball as well, because I was looking through the cast list.
Yeah.
Right, and when Darla gets to the pizza place, the pizza guy's making a comment about how there's banging coming from the boot, which is Jenny trying to escape. And so Darla goes to the boot to have a word with Jenny. And while she sees that, this police car pulls up behind her, and there's two police officers in there, and one of them is a female. That is Deborah McMichael. Now, for those of you who aren't experienced in the world of wrestling, Deborah McMichael is the lady who had the puppies and used to come out with Jeff Jarrett and was married to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Yeah. I was like, oh my God, it's Deborah. And
how did she end up here?
I have no idea. They have this, the male police officer says to Darla quickly, like, you know, what's in the boot? And she's like, oh, what did you like to know? And then she drives off and the police officers drive up alongside and then they drive off somewhere else. And Darla gets back to the house and they bring Jenny in and Matthew McConaughey's there and Leatherface is all being beaten by fucking W.E. who's got a stun rod because, like, he's not killed anybody.
Well, he hit Barry with the hammer and that's about it.
Yeah, but he
Leatherface.
didn't kill Heather. She escaped.
No, right? Left her on the hook and she got away.
Yes, it's like, you're a terrible killer.
Now, it is an interesting slant to go, okay, now Leatherface, he now likes to take on the personas of the suits of skin that he's wearing.
Yeah.
So now we have a, cross-dressing Leatherface in this film, and so he kind of is very subservient as well to the rest of his family. He's lost his intimidation factor. He's got a nice clean set of teeth.
Yeah.
You know?
I also like the idea, or I played with the idea that after the death of the mum in the third one, Leatherface then took on the idea of him being mum
right,
for the family, and that every time we see a different family, it's just different people that Leatherface has converted to his cause. I don't know. The movies make no fucking sense to me after the first one because Matthew McConaughey spends the next, 15 minutes?
Chewing up the scenery.
Chewing up the scenery, torturing Renée Zellweger.
Yeah, there's a moment where she does get free and she grabs hold of the rifle.
Yeah.
And she's got them all at gunpoint and she's like, you, sit down, you, be quiet.
And he throws the shotgun shells at her like it's not even loaded. Ha ha ha.
Right, yeah, but that's after he toys around with it like, yeah, blow my head off. Rah!
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he just has a complete psychopathic episode.
But like I said, it was the roughness and the grabbing and the fingers in her mouth and stuff like that I was like, the director's probably like, right, this is the torture sequence. We need to make it look scary. We need to make it look terrifying. But with all the stuff that we filmed that won't be in the film, but we don't know that yet. You know, Jenny, you're PTSD and mind broken anyway. So Vilma, you're trying to torture her to the point, but she doesn't care because she doesn't feel it, you know. And it's just, it clashes so much in these sequences that Renée and Matthew are probably the best two.
Oh, yeah.
At this point in the movie. Leatherface is completely left out. We get the dinner sequence again. What's it with this family and fucking getting people around the dinner table? Like,
well, they're just lonely.
Well, luckily we've got guests coming.
Oh, right. Did anybody expect the Illuminati to turn up?
well, it was written on the side of his wrecking van, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Illuminati
so
wrecking.
it was there the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah. And so this guy turns up with his chauffeur. Jenny's just like, oh, thank God you're here. Help me. We got to get out of here. These family are crazy. And he's like, yeah, okay, fine. Just sit down over there.
Yeah.
And he goes over and has a chat with Vilma. And he's like, yeah, I'm very disappointed.
I really felt like Matthew McConaughey was looking at this guy like, who the fuck are you?
Right.
Coming into my movie, trying to steal my sequences. Like, he stares intently like he's going to stab him.
Yeah. Well, we'd already had the sequence earlier with Darla and Jenny in the bathroom where Darla's just like, oh, about 1,000, maybe 2,000 years ago. I don't really remember when, you know, this secret organization took over.
Yeah.
And that's who Vilma and we work for. Oh, and by the way, I've got a bomb in my head, so if I don't do what Vilma says, he's going to detonate it.
But is that true?
Well, it just, maybe she's been psychologically broken by him now at this point.
That's how I kind of feel like it as well. It's like, you know, like in a lot of horror movies, she's like the gas station attendant.
Right,
it? You know, these people come along looking for directions. Darla sends them away. They kill them, torture them. The idea as well, I mean, both Gary and I read this in the notes, that obviously this whole Illuminati thing at the end is supposed to... Since the release of Martyrs, people have gone, ooh, there's evil society people out there torturing people to the point that they can see, like, things past the veil.
Trying to encourage a transcendental experience.
Yeah, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation originally tried to do that idea. I don't buy that. I think they didn't know what the fuck they were doing towards the end. And so they tried to just incorporate, you know, like you said, his commentary on audiences being desensitized and how it can affect the mentality of people.
Is it a commentary on us as the horror audience being the Illuminati, trying to encourage a transcendental experience for the horror characters so that we can enjoy the film?
I don't care. Because at this point, when this movie had been released, there were so many other better horror movies that were just the Illuminati were either involved or not involved, but were still making money from. And your Next Generation movie just was shit. Because after Mr. Big Boss Man has revealed his 3 golden rings that he's got on his belly.
It has a bit of a licking episode.
And as a licking, like you could say, yeah, for me, like Renée Zellweger was just like, will you fucking stop? I didn't sign up for all this licking.
Surely you got it in like one take, right?
Yeah. He leaves and there's a massive beatdown on the family.
Vilma kills EW. Smashes him with a hammer. He sets Heather on fire.
Yeah, which was fucking crazy. Yeah. Gives Darla a bit of a beating, and then Jenny escapes. And he's just like, go get her, Leatherface, go get her, go cut her face off. And Leatherface chases after Jenny, and it immediately cuts to daytime. That was quick. And there's a plane, a crop duster, like...
Just flies in low and it just clips Vilma, who's also running after them, and well, he's dead now.
I don't know how to explain this ending.
Got taken out by the Illuminati.
That's like the RV, the old lady in the...
Oh yeah.
You're like,
no, don't stop for her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's being chased by a chainsaw maniac. Let her in.
Oh.
And then that flips over.
See, well, that's it, because that's what made me think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, is when they're driving alongside
and you got Leatherface in the back.
Leatherface in the back with the chainsaw. And yeah, so it was after this that the plane ends up taking out Vilma.
Yeah.
And Leatherface is left in the middle of the road swinging his chainsaw around while Jenny gets into the car and the Illuminati Big Boss Man drives her off.
It also explains, like, we were trying to achieve this mental state for you so that...
Yeah, and then he says, we're really sorry because it absolutely failed. And I'm like, yes, mate, that's a massive message of your movie.
Exactly, I think that was the script writer going, yeah, we failed, so we'll just apologise to the audience at the end.
You really must accept my sincere apologies. It was supposed to be a spiritual experience. I can't tell you how disappointed I am.
And then they do take her to a hospital. They're like, do you want to go to the police station or to the hospital? I guess she chose the hospital.
Yeah.
And then we do have some wonderful cameos here where we have like 3 returning actors from the original movie.
We do, yeah.
Including Sally, who's being stretchered off probably because she's had a transcendental experience.
Is it Franklin as well?
That's
the
pushing
orderly
her.
Pushing it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's over.
Fucking movie.
Ian, what are your favourite scenes?
Jesus, like I said, the sequences with Matthew McConaughey and Renée Zellweger are just crazy to watch. You have to see them to see what certain actors will put themselves through in low budget horror movies just to try to get their careers off the bat. It's mind boggling, especially that sequence, like I said, where he's got his fingers in her mouth, or when he's grabbing her head and he's shoving her up against the glass. It's just like, I'm not surprised that she probably got some bruises or stuff. The knife sequence where Vilma, he pulls out the knife after like her and Darla have had the conversation in the bathroom, and he's ready all to slit her throat, and he wants her to give him a reason why he shouldn't just kill her there
Starts
and then.
counting down from 10.
That was pretty intense, and I like the way that Renée kind of just held herself together and obviously just told him like, you're one to keep me alive for a reason. Barry was an absolute asshole, and I was really quite happy when he got jump killed by Leatherface, but the whole sequence leading up to that, where he just walks into the house and he takes a piss and he's not even bothered by the skin of flesh hanging, Heather being chased as well, that was pretty intense. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it made me think of the first one. There's a sequence as well that I couldn't help but laugh, but it's after Darla has grabbed Jenny and they've come across Heather in the road, and she walks up, she grabs a pole, and she goes to hit her in the head, but it's like really crap.
Right.
Like really crap.
Yeah, a little stick.
And Heather's just like, don't hit me. I was just like, just kill her and put her out for misery, for fuck's sake.
Don't hit me.
Okay.
You sit the fuck down. That was Jenny to Leatherface, as if to say, you're not even close to the main character in this film. You're not even fucking scary. I'm not even scared of you. And she just fucking tells him to sit down, and he does. And I think she makes her escape at this point, or it's just before Vilma sets fire to the other girl, so she's had enough. Like, why did Vilma have so many remote controls for that cybernetic leg?
Because they kept breaking or malfunctioning, or he needed the batteries for them, or he kept them all because they were all breaking. I don't even know how it even functionally actually supposed to work.
And at the same time, like I said, the funny message at the end, where he's just apologizing to us, the audience members, to Jenny, to Renée Zellweger for being in this film, to the producers, to the people who financed it, to the people who made the disc and burnt the disc and then made the cover and put it in there and then put it on the Blockbuster shelves. He's saying sorry to all those people. There's probably a copy of this movie lying at the bottom of the Mariana Trench right now, I bet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't have very many favourite scenes from this film. The acting in this, for the most part, was dreadful. Other than the over-the-top performance of Matthew McConaughey. That really is like a highlight of the film. It is the highlight of the film. But yeah, I'll give Renée Zellweger some points for wrestling with a rubbish bag out in the forest.
Yeah.
Ian, do you recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation?
I recommend this one like I recommend the second one. No, I do not recommend this movie. They call it a black comedy. I do not find this movie funny at all. I think it's funny that people would actually even consider that this film is funny. And if that's the case, then they probably find the second one funny. And if at this point, you've got to just go with it, okay? If you've done 2 and you've done 3, just get through 4. Because you're on that ride. This has elements of number 2, it has elements of number 3, and elements of number 1. And luckily, after this, film companies or distributors who had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise would actually say, no, we are not doing any more that connects 2, 3, or 4, okay? Just go off the first one. That's all you need. You know, like, yeah, don't, never, no, just don't, no.
Oh, it's a no from me as well. I'm not recommending the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, as this was a horrible film from start to finish. Kim Henkel, the writer and director, clearly had some interesting ideas, but the execution was horrendously bad, with some awful creative choices that you'd be convinced they sabotaged this franchise on purpose. The acting in this is outrageously over the top, or completely flat, or just downright awful in many instances. But at least Matthew McConaughey is giving it his all, the one highlight in this total mess. As a Texas Chainsaw sequel, this is also utterly disappointing. Embarrassing even, and it has the most inept and non-threatening Leatherface ever put to screen. And that was even the creator's intent. It's unreal. So yeah, this was barely worth watching for McConaughey's craziness, 25, 30 years ago, and well, just maybe scrapes the line of so bad it's good for some cult appeal. But for me, this was enough to say I'll never watch this again. Still buzzing after all these years. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.